Hi guys, Prime here. Today we're going to be going over Olorun, a new god from the Yoruba pantheon. Just going over his lore, mythology, and all of that good stuff. So, who is he? He's the head of the gods, known as Olorun, Lord of Heaven, Oba Orolun, King of the Sky, and Olodumare, Almighty. Originally, there was only the sky and a mess of marshy water. Olorun ruled the sky and the goddess Orolun, the waters. She was a water goddess. There were countless other gods, but Olorun was by far the most powerful and knowledgeable. Olorun, and some events after this, came to be known as the supreme deity. And see, whilst Olorun was satisfied with her watery abode, Obatala wanted to better the land. He proposed his improvements to Olorun, who agreed and gave Obatala leave to create the land that he presented. Obatala sought out Orunmila, Olorun's oldest son, for guidance as to how he should undertake the task. From that, Olorun learnt that he should begin collecting gold to make a chain that could be lowered from the sky to the waters below. When the chain was finished, Orunmila gave Obatala a snail shell filled with sand, a white hen, a black cat, and a palm nut. Obatala descended the chain and drained the sand into the waters. He then freed the hen, which scratched at the sand and scattered it in all directions. Any place the sand fell became dry land, the earth itself. Stepping onto the land called Ife, Obatala built a house and grew palm trees from the palm nut. Obatala had a cat companion but grew lonely and fashioned figures out of clay. He then breathed life into them, and many gods traveled from the sky to live on the earth. Olorun had them listen to human prayers and shield them from harm. Olokun lost a decent portion of territory in all this and was understandably upset, so she tried to flood the humans out of her land and reclaim it. Orunmila didn't like this idea and used his powers to force the waters back. Olokun was even more upset, as the sky god's own son had challenged and bested her, so she challenged Olorun to a weaving contest to prove who was the more powerful of the two, and just overall the dominant god. Olokun's weaves were rivaled by none, and she never failed to make a beautiful cloth. The chameleon, Agemo, tasked with carrying messages for Olorun, matched his skin to her weaves with every cloth she created. Eventually she realized that Olorun's messenger could copy her best works and accepted Olorun as the supreme god. Despite being the supreme deity, Olorun has no cult groups or priests, but does act as the head of the Orisha gods. Orisha aren't gods in the normal sense, but they would occupy that space as sort of way above humans. They're sort of similar to lower spirits in that sense, though not necessarily completely relegated to the protection, improvement, and just the binding themselves to human beings. Olokun is a primordial Orisha, meaning that he was around in heaven prior to the creation of the earth, say, which the previous stories sort of points out to you already. As far as his relationships go, as the supreme god, many gods work under Olorun. Agemo, for instance, is his messenger. Orunmila acts as fate itself by communicating Olorun's fixed intentions through pine nuts and other things. Irunmule are also beings that Olorun gives tasks to complete, mostly acting as connections between the physical realm and the invisible one. These Orunmule are usually more important than Orishas, or just more important Orishas, to be more correct. They're not necessarily more important than Orishas because they are Orishas. They're just more special ones. Speaking of Orishas and more important ones, there was a hierarchy established amongst the Orisha after the Earth's creation. And Oko, one of them, without any special abilities or anything like that to reside over, figured that if he knew more about a certain thing than anyone else, that people could ask him for that specific thing, rather than having to deal with Orunmila. See, prior to things being like that, Olorun sort of had Orunmila deal with the people's needs, and they simply just came to Orunmila on Earth as sort of like a wise, divine prophet, seer, that sort of thing. If they needed something, they could just go to him. Sort of like how we go to Google with a lot of random questions that we might have, because it's like this nice sort of database of knowledge. Other Orisha chimed in, and soon everyone wanted powers. Olorun Miller was a bit overwhelmed as he figured that the equal footing that the Orisha spoke of may have not been the best of ideas, so he sort of went for a walk. He meets Agemo, and Agemo suggests that the distribution of powers should be random. Olorun Miller should ascend to the sky, and messengers should tell the people when powers will be about on the earth. This way, everyone will have a fair shot at grabbing a power, and they can keep that power. As the messengers will let all Orishas know what's happening and when it's transpiring, not a soul will feel slighted or left out. Olorun did this 5 days later, and the Orisha were grateful for what they got. Not everyone was given equal strength, speed, or wit, and so varying degrees of power and responsibility was divvied out, but everyone got something. In another story about giving powers, one Ill-Ife person exclaimed that there's nothing unequal among us and that there's nothing to differentiate us. We speak the same language, live in the same town, and we each own equal amounts of possessions. No one of us has more than any other, and no one has less either. There is no variety among us. We are identical. Olorun knew that by making differences between the people, that only strife and turmoil would come of it, even going so far as to send Eshu, the trickster god, to explain this. Yet the people would not accept this, so Eshu was tasked with handing out different powers to the people, and things went south. Women complained about being treated unfairly by men, that they weren't exactly equal. People warred, and the Ilife disbanded into different tribes, cities, and so on. In other words, Eshu gets the blame for inequality, even though technically you could blame Olorun for giving in to the people's, shall we say, demands, concerns, outcries. And essentially all the bad stuff that happens to people is blamed on this one myth, this one mishap. So I suppose we will have another thing that's now going to be connected to a god in Smite to blame for all our troubles. You know, just like how Chernobog can be blamed for all of life's problems. Funny how mythological people like to blame gods for things that happen to them. In any way, any bad thing that's ever happened to you, you've got a god you can blame for that. It's a funny thing, but it is what it is. And that's the end of the video. So what do you think of Olorun? Does he sound like an interesting character, an interesting creator, all-seeing, almighty god? And considering the fact that he's being added to the story, I haven't been keeping up with it, but I'm guessing things have gone south if they need to add a god like this. But are you excited for the god? Do you really want to explore more of the African pantheons? Don't leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And till the next video, have a very good day. I've been Prime. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.